My game of the day from round 3 of the Tata Steel Masters is Alireza Firouzja against Vladislav Artemiev. Both players going pretty well. 1.5 out of 2 going into this round for both players. Firouzja actually had a chance to win against Duda yesterday, so he's made a strong start. Artemiev, well, he was on fantastic form at the start of 2019, winning Gibraltar, playing so well for Russia in the World Teams, and winning the European Individual as well. So this is not an easy game for Firouzja. Karakan, advanced variation. Now, I wonder whether Artemiev was a little surprised by Firouzja's choice, actually. It's a very ambitious variation for white. The Iranian has played in various other systems against the Caro, so a little bit unusual for him. And when it got to this point, well, let me just explain what's going on here. You can see that white uses this space, and that bishop comes to a very active square pinning, and we can see one tactical point of this straight away, that if black takes here, then there's no need to recapture. The knight comes into e4, and suddenly, because of the pin, the knight can't move, and then knight d6 on the next turn. So black has to be careful here. But the reason why I say that maybe Artemiev was caught out here was because here he thought for 21 minutes, almost 22 minutes over this move. So it seems to me he was a little bit surprised. And it is a theoretical continuation. I mean, it's been played before. Queen b6 played. And this is a very testing move, of course, because black would like to take here. And yeah, it's tricky stuff. And, well, after very little reflection, Firouzja played rook c1, offering this pawn. Now, it is possible to take on b2. And maybe, if one is very well prepared, one might go for this. But it's clear that after white castles, he's going to get a huge attack here. It's not an easy position for black to play. And Artemiev, well, again, he hesitated. He thought for over 8 minutes over this next move, and basically bottled out of taking the b pawn, instead just exchanged here, and then played the knight into f5. And, well, at this moment, Firouzja started to think quite a bit. I mean, maybe because, well, it started to get very tactical, and you could say it's not the absolute main line of this. So, why is white castling? Well, obviously, quick development, and, well, the tactical point is if queen takes pawn. Now, this is really nice. White has knight b5. This reminds me of Morphy against the Duke of Brunswick. If this knight is taken, then suddenly black is going to get caught up in this pit. Horrible position. Or if knight takes, then if knight takes pawn, then, well, you can see there's a pin here. But knight a4 bumps the queen off the diagonal, and then pawn takes knight. So in other words, black isn't winning any pawn here. So bishop e7. Knight takes. Well, in order to get developed, black has allowed his king to be displaced. But I suppose, those exchanges could potentially help black. If black manages to settle here, then white could well be overextended, and you can imagine a rook hitting d4 And that could be quite nice for black. But in the meantime, white has the chance to hassle the king. Now, this position has actually been reached before in a game between Emil Sutovsky, very dangerous grandmaster, Israeli grandmaster. He has, a real instinct for attack, and he managed to win a game against Maria Muzichuk, played in Gibraltar 2018, that went like this, and then queen g5 check, and simply took the pawn on h5, obviously better for white. Instead, well, this is Artemiev's improvement, queen d8. So if there's a check, then obviously the king will just drop back and black offers an exchange of queens. But also, well, what's the point of this? It seems funny to go out and then come back again. But it now makes room for the knight potentially to come to b6. Obviously a nice square looking at the bishop and the d5 square. But also the queen has an eye on that h-pawn. Now, knight d1. This is a nice manoeuvre. Both sides bounce their knights around. So obviously hassling the bishop. And if the bishop drops, then white's bishop will come back. And now basically white wants to ram through f4, f5 as quickly as possible and break open the king. So Artemiev just played king f8, allowing the bishop to be exchanged off, but also opening up the queen's line here. Now, this, I think, is actually the crunch moment in the game. Might not seem like it at this moment, but I think Firouzja judges the position so well at this moment. How many of us would simply defend that h-pawn with, let's say, queen f4, which looks like quite a nice move, attacking the f-pawn, but actually this gives black a chance to find his feet by exchanging off the bishop and then just playing g6. And actually with just heavy pieces on the board, this is not so bad for black. The king will come here. Well, if everything goes according to plan, then king g7, queen to d5, maybe blockading on e6, rook into the middle. Basically, black is fine. I mean, white can try and shake things up a little bit there. There are ways to try and sacrifice, get d5 or e6 in, but basically, black should be all right. But instead, Firouzja played bishop b3. Very cool indeed. Simply giving up the h-pawn. Now, what's the big follow-up? Some crashing sacrifice? No. Very calm. Just rook e1, and he just wants to open the position to catch black's king. It's very calm indeed. So Artemiev brings the rook out at the side, and e6. And bishop takes. So you can see that black's king is struggling to get to safety when the bishop is on e6, cutting across. And this is very uncomfortable for black because there are possibilities perhaps to check here, attacking the king. For example, if rook f6, well, now queen b4 check is winning, the queen can no longer come back. Or if queen f6, then rook c3, with the idea of swinging the rook across here, maybe bishop takes pawn. So rook e8 played. So he wants to exchange rooks, exchange pieces, try and just kind of ease the pressure on the position. So Firouzja wins the pawn back. and Artemiev brings the queen back into the defence. So that means if there's a check here, then it's possible to block, for example. Queen d3, again very calm. This position with queen, rook and bishop actually reminds me of the game between Fischer and Petrosian in the Soviet Union Rest of the World match from 1970. You'll find that video on the channel. Do check it out. Classic Fischer, actually. And Petrosian's king was caught in a similar way. Here, well, the move we would like to play is knight d5. But then bishop g6 looks pretty awful. Now black's king is really caught here. I mean, the knight will come back here to defend, but it's obviously really terrible for black with the rook stuck here. Therefore, king f7 to stop bishop g6, but actually there's a bit of wriggling takes place here, and Firouzja manages to find a way to just disrupt the harmony of black's pieces. Queen e3, so we're threatening mate. Now queen here, we're getting closer. Queen f3 might be even stronger, but queen e4 is good. And now black's best is to play knight d5, and then either bishop g6 or bishop e6 are both excellent for white. But instead, rook f6 played, and well, that bishop is looking fantastic. Mate in a couple threatened. Queen switches, whoops, beg your pardon. That was unintentional. King g8. And now queen here, pinning. And white is actually winning material by force here. And there's a very nice switch. Black's defense doesn't hold here. That is a great move, cutting back to this diagonal. And that is basically game over. Here, well, there are a couple of ways to win here. Maybe Firouzja's continuation wasn't the quickest, but it was absolutely certain. He won the knight, and that's basically game over. Now, Artemiev has 2 pawns for it, but really, this is pretty simple. Let's just see how he did it. I think the crucial thing is that white's king is completely safe, and black has to offer an exchange of queens, otherwise this queen will run rampant against the king and the weak pawns. And this is pretty simple. The queenside pawns don't really go anywhere. Bishop d1 is a good move, of course, so either black's king will be tied to defending the pawn, in which case white's king moves over, or in the game that pawn advanced. But now there is a very simple little mechanism to win both black's pawns on the king side. And, well, that bishop controls the queenside pawns. And now it's just a case of advancing the g pawn. I mean, really, kind of the last 10 or 15 moves were quite superfluous in this game. I'm not saying that Artemiev should have resigned. I think players, well, sometimes they need to just come to terms with the result. But I'm saying it was actually pretty easy. So if the king comes in, then we keep advancing, and then it's just possible to give up the bishop for the pawn, and white is a queen up. So a really convincing win for the Iranian. I think, as I said, I think the star move was back here. where instead of lazily defending that h-pawn, he just gave it up and appreciated that this slow motion breakthrough with rook e1 and e6 would cause black enormous problems. And after that, well, his technique was safe and sound. Excellent game. So that win puts Alireza Firouzja in the lead of the Tata Steel tournament. He has 2.5 out of 3. Xiong, So, Caruana and Van Foreest have 2 points. Good wins today for Van Foreest. He beat Dubov. Beautiful win by Caruana. Great technical win by him against Yu Yangyi. That really was a very special game, and it looks to me like Caruana is on top form after that game. Anyway, lots more to come from this tournament, but so far Alireza Firouzja is at the top. Thanks for watching.